If Hollywood is to be believed, card counting is effectively a way to print money, so long as you're a maths genius. Well, it's certainly hard to do, that part is accurate. But does it really work as a magic ATM? No, not even close. Card counting is a tactic used in blackjack, so let's quickly familiarise ourselves with the rules of blackjack. The game consists of a dealer and up to 7 players. The dealer deals out 2 cards to everyone and places one of their own cards face down. The aim of the game is to achieve a points value as close to 21 as possible, without going over or going bust as it's known. The cards numbered 2 through 10 are worth their face value, the court cards are worth 10, and an ace is worth 1 or 11. After the initial deal, the player can choose to stick with what they have or take more cards. The closer they get to 21 points, the more likely they are to win. But if they exceed 21, they lose, along with the wager they've placed. Once every player at the table has either decided to stick with the cards they have or has gone bust, the dealer reveals their second card and plays out their hand. If the dealer goes bust, all the players win. If the dealer sticks, then all the players who have a higher points value than the dealer but haven't gone bust win. There are additional rules, but for our purposes, that's all you need to know. So, how do we gain our advantage? By keeping track of the cards that are dealt to the table, you can work out what cards are left in the deck and whether, on average, those cards are good or bad for the players. There are a few methods of keeping track of all this, but the most popular is the high-low method. 10, Jack, Queen, King, and Ace are all good cards for the player, so we assign them a value of -1. This is because if they have been played, they are out of the deck, leaving fewer good cards remaining in the deck. 7, 8, and 9 are neutral cards. They give no special benefit to either the dealer or the player, so they get a value of 0. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are bad for the player, but good for the house, so we assign them a value of +1. If they are out of the deck, that is good news for us. If a round gets dealt containing lots of high value cards, then we know that the deck has fewer good cards remaining, so future rounds will have worse odds for the player. If a round is played and mainly low value cards are dealt, we know that the deck now offers slightly better odds. Right, let's run through a round of play. The first card, a 7, has a value of 0, so we ignore it. The next card is a 3, which carries a value of +1. The next is an ace, which is good for the player but bad in terms of the deck composition, so it gets a -1. Our next card is a jack, which is good for us in this particular hand, but bad news overall, so another -1. So far, the running count is -1. Let's pick up the pace a little. We have a +1, a 0, a -1, and another 0. Running count is at -1. 0, -1, -1, +1, 0, -1, +1, and an unknown card. Running count is currently at -2. The first player hits, gets a 3, which is a +1, and sticks on 18. Second player hits, gets a queen, which is a -1, and goes bust. The third player has a blackjack, and therefore sticks. They can't be beaten, as we can see the dealer does not have a blackjack themselves. Running count is currently at -2. Now it's our turn. We get a 2, which is a +1, we hit, get a 7, which is a 0, and stand on 19. Running count is at -1. Player 5's card gives us a 0, player 6 sticks, player 7 adds +1, and the dealer reveals a 10, which is a -1. The dealer sticks on 18, we had 19, so we win this hand. Excellent. Overall, the running count is -1. But we can't base our betting on that number. We need the true count. Blackjack in a casino is usually played with multiple decks of cards. The more decks of cards, the better the odds are for the house. Let's say this game is played with 6 decks and there are 2 decks left to play. To get the true count, we need to divide the running count by the remaining decks, so that -1 becomes -0.5. When the true count is low, we either don't want to be playing at all or want to bet the absolute minimum. When the true count goes up, we start to bet more and more. In standard blackjack games, the house, that is the casino, has roughly a 0.5 to 1% advantage over the player. With card counting, you can reverse that to give the player roughly a 1% advantage. 1%. That's all. It's not some magical method to guarantee a win every time, it's just 1%. So what's the cost of that 1% advantage? Blackjack isn't a game of bluffing or skill, it's a game of odds, and in every possible combination of cards, there is a statistically backed correct choice. If your cards total 16 and the dealer's face-up card is 6, you should stick with what you have. If the dealer's card is a 7, you should hit. You should take another card. Basically, you need to memorize each of these choices to an intuitive level, and that takes a lot of time to master. When you are playing with a 1% advantage, to actually make money you need to be playing a lot of games, with a lot of money. That not only requires a lot of time to actually play the games, but also a lot of money in the first place to absorb the losses. With a 1% advantage, you are still going to lose very often, and you need to be able to pay for those losses. It's only over an extended period that you can be reasonably confident of winning. Keeping the count of a game is also not the easiest thing in the world to do. Casinos are full of distractions too. There's loud music, background noise, people trying to talk to you. Dealers can deal quickly and you need to keep up with the count without giving away what you are doing. That requires skill. Now, card counting isn't illegal in the vast majority of the world, but that doesn't mean the casinos are lax about it. After all, every cent you win is money out of their pockets. Therefore, they employ a number of tactics to limit the advantage card counters can achieve. As the decks left to be played get fewer in number, the potential advantage for a card counter goes up and up, so casinos will shuffle all of the decks earlier, resetting the count. In an ideal scenario, a card counter watches a table and only joins the game when the true count is heavily in their favour. Some casinos simply don't allow this. You need to be in the game from the start. Some casinos go a step further, putting RFID chips in each and every card. As the game progresses, the dealt cards are kept track of automatically, and if the true count of the deck swings too heavily in the player's favour, then a signal to reshuffle the deck is given. Last but not least, casino staff are trained to spot card counters. That includes the people watching the multitude of cameras, as well as the dealers themselves. Effective card counting requires exceptional concentration, and card counters also bet in a manner that is far from typical for an average player. These signs are pretty obvious to well-trained staff. To summarise, effectively card counting is time consuming to learn, difficult to sustain, and nets you a fairly meagre advantage of about 1%. People do make money from it, but it is essentially an interesting mathematical manipulation of the rules of blackjack, rather than the highly lucrative magic cash machine that it has been portrayed as. If you liked the video, perhaps consider subscribing.